that the lack of predictability is something that we should all point out, and that has certainly been the case, as the fact is that things have been changing very rapidly, almost hourly, but we have a pretty good idea of where we find ourselves now. We now expect that Marco will hit landfall before Laura does. We also believe that Tropical Storm Marco will hit landfall somewhere in the vicinity of Houma, Morgan City, Louisiana. It'll be a little bit to our west where it hits landfall, but we also know that because of the fact that although it was downgraded from a hurricane to a tropical storm overnight, we also believe that as early as middle of this afternoon, maybe even early this afternoon, we will start feeling tropical storm level winds on the Mississippi Gulf Coast in our 3 coastal counties. The most likely time will be around 2 o'clock today, in which those tropical storm force winds will start hitting our coast. We also know that we have a tropical storm warning in Jackson, Harrison, and Hancock County, Mississippi. Certainly not a surprise. We also know that storm surge could become an issue. We also know that we're going to see significant amounts of rainfall on the Mississippi Gulf Coast with Marco, but also we could see significant amounts of rainfall throughout this week as the other storm moves towards our state. The fact is that the second storm is not yet in the Gulf of Mexico, and just like we saw with Marco, there is a lack of predictability as to exactly where that storm goes. It is at this time projected to hit landfall as a Category 1 to Category 2 hurricane, and so we've got to monitor that. We expect Marco to hit landfall sometime overnight, probably in the middle of tonight, and then the other storm, Laura, is not likely to hit until maybe Wednesday afternoon or Thursday morning or somewhere there in between. So we've got a lot to deal with. Obviously, as I said on Saturday, this is only the 10th time since 1868 that we've had 2 storms scheduled to hit landfall on the United States within a 1-week period. We had it occur in 2002, and before that it had not occurred since 1958. So this again is 2020, and so we expect the unexpected. We expect rare events to occur, and what we're seeing this week certainly is exactly that. And so I'm going to ask Director Michel to come up and give an update from his perspective, and then we'll turn it over for questions. Director Michel.
Thank you, Governor Reeves. I continue to appreciate your leadership through this and being out here again. It almost seems like a daily basis that we're having to brief the governor on something. So thank you again, Governor, for your leadership. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Time runs together. The governor's given you a good update on the storms and what they're projected to do. We are fairly confident at this point in time what Tropical Storm Marco is projected to do. Thankfully, it appears that storm will continue to weaken as it makes landfall on or around the Louisiana coast. We now redirect our attention to Laura, even though there will be effects from Marco. We're looking at some rain, particularly along the more southern coastal states or counties in the state of Mississippi, but Laura is one that we're looking at. So let's just talk about that. As you well know, when we did our first press conference back this weekend and we left, within hours, the storm track of Marco changed when it entered the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to wait. We're anticipating the hurricane update at 4 o'clock in the morning. That'll be the one that I will be most interested in as Laura enters the Gulf of Mexico to see what those warm waters will do to this storm. Until that happens, we're going to continue to maintain a heightened posture as this storm. Currently, that storm is slated to go as far west as the Texas-Louisiana border. If it continues to do that, then we'll continue to keep the state of Texas, Louisiana in our prayers, but we're going to be prepared if that storm does make a slight jog to the southeast. So more to follow on that, or excuse the northeast, more to follow on that as this storm progresses. Just a few reminders. I've been getting a lot of questions about shelters. Let me reiterate one more time. Shelters will be open if they are needed in the affected counties. COVID will not prevent us from opening shelters, but it's important to continue to reemphasize congregate shelters do place individuals more at risk during this COVID environment. But they will be open. And yes, we do have enough shelters should the need arise. We are just simply stating that if you have other means and other places to go, to please use that as your first option. You need to plan now for a place to go if you have to evacuate and how you are going to get there. And if you do evacuate, make sure that you alert your loved ones or family members or friends as to where you're going in the event that something does happen. Want to make sure that you're monitored. Reminder to check your emergency supply kits. PPE is going to be critical. I want to just put out a thanks to the state of Florida for their non-congregate shelter team that we received yesterday. They are working with us now to assist us in our non-congregate shelter plan. We received them through our Emergency Management Assistance Compact, which is a reciprocal agreement that all states have. The same thing has been done in Louisiana with South Carolina. And then Texas, of course, as you saw yesterday, has now declared a state of emergency. All of us are prepared to support each other should that need arise, and we'll just continue to wait there. That concludes my update, and we'll turn it back over to the governor now.
Thank you, Director Michelle. And again, as always, I want to thank the men and women here at the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency. They've been working all weekend getting us prepared. We find ourselves in a situation where we will continue to prepare as this week progresses. And I also want to thank Governor DeSantis and the team in Florida that are here to assist us. One thing we certainly believe here in the southeastern part of the United States is that we're going to step up and help our friends and help our neighbors. And Florida and South Carolina both have done so during these events. And should it become necessary, we will do the same either for them or anyone else at the appropriate time. So with that, I'm going to open the floor to any questions.
Are there any areas that concern you most? I mean, with tropical storms can dump a lot of rain, and we've seen that on a bad day, a thunderstorm threat in Mississippi.
Yeah, there's no question. We're looking at potential storm surge of 2 to 4 feet. We're also looking at the potential with Tropical Storm Marco of 4 to 6 inches of rain in the coastal counties. We'll get some rain up in central Mississippi as well, but as much as 4 to 6 inches in the coastal counties. It is the reason that the primary assets that we have pre-positioned are with respect to search and rescue, because rising water, as we have seen in storms before, can really get people in a tough situation very, very quickly, and it can happen when it's unexpected. And so when I think about what are the primary risks that we're dealing with Tropical Storm Marco over the next 24 hours, I would have to say that search and rescue because of rising water, either through storm surge or through the significant amount of rainfall, or a combination of the two, is probably the biggest risk that we have identified. But there are other risks, as Director Michelle mentioned. Sheltering is always important, but the fact is we want to remind everyone that utilizing the shelters that will be open, should they need to be open in our coastal counties and throughout, should be a last option. And the reason it should be a last option is because during COVID-19, the opportunity to properly socially distanced and wearing a mask, etc., limits the amount of people that we can put in our shelters, and it is clearly from a risk-reward standpoint, in the times of COVID-19, congregate shelters are not ideal. And so we're looking at other potential avenues, and we'll continue to monitor that and see if we can find additional solutions. But shelters will be open should they need to be. But again, we are not encouraging people to quickly go to shelters. If you can stay with a friend, if you can stay with a family member, should you need to get out of low-lying areas because of water or other reasons, then that's what we recommend. Yes, sir.
If you both can respond to this question, what viewers are seeing on the radars that we show and wherever, they see in the eye of the storm not hitting Mississippi, so they may not say, well, this hurricane or this tropical storm isn't going to affect us that much, but we all know that the eastern band is the heaviest part of the storm. Can you talk more about specifically paying attention to all those warnings and not taking this for granted or not believing in what the science is saying?
Well, the first thing I would say, and it's a great question, the first thing I would say is literally from the time I left MEMA at around noon on Saturday to the 4 o'clock briefing, the entire expectations had changed for both of these storms. In fact, we had anticipated that it was very possible that Laura may actually hit the coastline before Marco did. And at a minimum, we believe that they might hit simultaneously or around the same time. And what occurred over a very short period of time is the fact that that Marco, once it entered the Gulf of Mexico, the course changed very quickly. Now, with respect to Tropical Storm Marco, which should be making landfall within the next 12 to 18 hours, if you look at the current projections, it is anticipated that it take a very, very sharp left turn not long before it gets to the mouth of the Mississippi River. We feel pretty confident that's going to occur. But we also know that it's not expected to take that strong left turn until it's pretty close to the Mississippi coastline. And so that is the reason we know that if you're to the east of any major storm, whether it's a tropical storm or a hurricane, it's those easterly winds that can really cause damage. But also, we believe there's going to be significant amounts of rainfall. So with the combination of the 2 to 4 foot storm surge and the potential for 4 to 6 inches of rain in a very short period of time, the scenario of rising water with Marco can lead to some significant challenges. Now, that's the immediate discussion that needs to be had, but we also have to understand that sometime in the next 48 hours, we expect Laura to come ashore. Laura right now is anticipated to make landfall somewhere around the Louisiana-Texas border. But the interesting thing about these two storms is while Marco is expected to take a fairly quick and rapid left turn, if you will, to the west right before it makes landfall, Laura actually later in the week is expected to hit landfall and then take a fairly quick right turn. So we could be looking at significant amounts of rain fall not only early on in the coastal area of over the next few days, but also it's very possible that the northwest quadrant of the state of Mississippi could get significant rainfall sometime in the middle to the latter part of this week. And so these are not, at this point, Category 5 hurricanes, and we need to recognize that. The one thing I think I have proven to the people across the state is I'm going to tell you the good news when it is good news, and I'm going to tell you the bad news when it's bad news. Right now with Marco, it is more good news than bad news, but we are anticipating the potential for significant rainfall and a rising surge. So I'm going to let Director Michelle address that as well.
I would just say, to wrap up the question, Gerald, complacency is always a concern of mine when we have a storm that's projected and it downgrades. So the final message I've just put out to everyone is that, Marcos may very well maintain itself and be a low-level threat. Laura still concerns me greatly because of unpredictability we've seen thus far. And my message to folks would be just to continue to remain vigilant, watch, pay attention, because you may have to react very quickly should Laura spin up badly. And then again, to the governor's points, rainfall and storm surge are still very dangerous factors.
Mallory.
Jeff. All right. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. Governor, obviously DMR's budget has been in limbo. First off, did that cause any issues in preparing for this storm, or do you see it causing any issues, them having to move codes to enforcement? And obviously the legislature's coming back today. How do you feel about the deal that's supposedly reached?
Yeah, obviously, the Department of Marine Resources plays a critical role in hurricane preparedness as well as hurricane response. They do an excellent job. Their law enforcement personnel step up every single time that we have an issue, and so we anticipate and expect they'll do so again today. We do anticipate that the Mississippi Legislature will come in this afternoon and very quickly pass a conference report for the budget for the Department of Marine Resources. We knew that we could essentially run the agency in July and August by executive action, but once we get towards the end of August, that would be a little bit more challenging. And so over the last really several months, but certainly the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been working with the leadership in the House and the leadership in the Senate. And my anticipation is that that they will successfully pass a Department of Marine Resources budget today and not stay in session very long at all. And I think the outcome is a good one. Yes, sir.
Governor, President Trump, he's using the FEMA funds to fund his extended unemployment plans that the states are applying for right now. Are you concerned about those funds going to that program and possibly taking away from essential disaster relief funds that are like hurricanes like today?
No, not at all. The Stafford Act provides significant funding for state and local governments during any natural disaster, and so I don't anticipate that causing any concerns or any problems. Seeing no other questions at this time, I want to thank everyone for being here. We'll continue to be available over the next several days as we monitor the effects of Tropical Storm Marco, as we hope and pray that the Tropical Storm Laura remains a tropical storm, although it's anticipated now that it's going to move to a hurricane strength and potentially be as in the upper level, level 1 versus potentially even level 2. And so we'll monitor that and we'll bring you more information as we have it. So again, thank y'all for what y'all do. To all of my friends across the state, remember that COVID is still an issue. We're still dealing with it. The numbers have ticked up a little bit over the weekend. Please continue to socially distance. Please continue to wear a mask. Please continue to be aware not only of the weather, but also be aware of this virus that we are dealing with. Working together, we can continue to slow the spread to lessen the impact on hospitalizations, ICU, patients in ICU, as well as patients on ventilators. Thank y'all. Stay safe, Mississippi, and God bless.